So once more in England, the weather turns a little bit dodgy, as you can see from outside or from on the greenhouse, all the water on there, all the rain. It's terrible out there at the minute. I mean, after a few days of beautiful, beautiful weather and things starting to kick away, it's turned decidedly nasty. So there's not a lot you can do in the garden. No point going out there. I do tend to have a little wander around, see what's happening, because things are away. Let's hope that nothing is too far on, that it'll get destroyed by this cold weather. Now, in my garden, there isn't really. There's nothing really going to get damaged. It's all hunkered down, shall we say, until the weather's right. A lot of stuff is up, but the stuff that is up will be able to cope quite nicely with what's going on. It won't care. So I'm in here just having a little check in my greenhouse at the minute. And a little tip I want to give you is, if you do seedlings of grasses, ornamental grasses, this one here is Elymus magellanicus, a lovely blue, in fact intensely blue perennial grass, deciduous, so it does well, semi-deciduous really. It dies back a little bit in winter, in fact quite a lot, and I tend to cut them back in winter and let them get going again. But if you've got seedlings, one of the best tips I can give you is to actually clip them back. So these are from last autumn. I clipped, well, autumn, September really. In fact, we can be more precise than that. Oh no, we can't. I didn't write it on. I usually write on my labels when I planted them, but I didn't in this case. But anyway, I think it was about September when I collected the seeds. And I tend to individualize them straight away. Now, if the seed's big enough, as with Elymus magellanicus, you can sort of like do a single station sowing. So you can just plant each seed into every cell that you can see, or that you've got enough seed for in this case. So Elymus magellanicus, I've only had a small plant, but it did produce some seeds, and I managed to get this amount out of it. But what I do is I clip back, as I said, I clip back these seeds because it helps to thicken them up, believe it or not. So when they first come up, let them develop a little bit, and then clip them from the top. So this was planted in September, and these ones are away now. Now, the longest one, that one there, you can see I did clip it at the bottom, and look what it's done. It's sent up a stronger leaf as a result of that. And that's what you should do. I do it every time. I don't tend to do it if I've got like a one that isn't deciduous, one that's evergreen, or shall we say ever brown in this case. Now this one is called China Cloa Rubra, one of my favourites. And I do really like this. It makes 3 to 4 foot in height. It takes about 5 years to get to full maturity. It's a good all-round doer. It will look great mass planted or on banks or individually, but dot it around the garden. And it looks wonderful. Now, I've got some other ones here. This one's... it used to be called Stipa calamagrostis, but it's now called Achnothyrum calamagrostis. And it's a real nice grass, this one. Again, deciduous, so it'll die back. But again, you can see I'm clipping back the new growth, simply to make it thicken up and to strengthen it. So if it's having to grow new leaf because it thinks a sheep's eating it, then it's going to produce more roots. And that's what this one's done. It's looking really good. Now, I've planted... Cynara cardunculus, this one is a dwarf form. It's a spiky little bugger, really is spiky, but it's quite small in its form. It's not come up yet, so I'm a little bit disappointed because I planted these. I do know when I planted these, March the 2nd. So we're at the end of March, and well, to be quite honest with this one, I'd expect maybe a month and a half before it comes up, but I was hoping it would be up by now. I've also planted Eryngium Silver Ghost and also Echinacea, which is pallida, which are in here, but there's no signs of any yet. I've been coming in here every day like you do, because it's quite exciting, isn't it? and I have a little fluff around, see if there's anything that looks like it's going to come through. Now, I was a bit late planting these really, so this maybe hasn't helped at the moment, but I'm not too worried at the moment. Could take a month, could take a month and a half before these things start coming. But I'm out here looking, can't see any new growth at the minute. One of the things that I do is I've got this Alchemilla, and it's called Erythropoda, and it's actually what they call Turkish form. So if you're familiar with it, it's like Alchemilla mollis but tinier, and it's brilliant because it'll just self-seed around the garden. Now this particular form is more silver grey, and there is definitely a difference between Alchemilla Erythropoda and the Turkish form. The ordinary form is a lot more green than this. It's doing well, and what I've done, I'll just open the greenhouse door. You can see down there, there's a load more in cells there, along with some Echinaceas. So, what I also do is, this is Cloa macra, and I split this from the main plant. In the garden, it's a little bit behind, but I wanted to get it going, so I brought it in the greenhouse, and look at it. It's doing really well. It's doing, what is it? Inch and a half, or shade my tape on me. It's about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches. It's doing really well. It pays you to do this if you're trying to get your garden established a bit more. Then it pays to do this. Now, when people buy in plants from different nurseries and they order them over the internet, I can almost guarantee. What's that? A little bug in there, come out. I can almost guarantee they will have grown them on in greenhouses or polytunnels, and this is why you tend to get some quite good sized plants coming in. Now, if I was buying this in, this is exactly what I would expect to see, probably in a smaller pot, to be honest, and I'd expect to pay, look, you can see from this one, $8.95. Now, that was the original price of a 1 litre pot. Is it 1 litre? I think it was 1 litre. I'm sure it was. And all these plants were split about a year and a half ago from that original pot. So £9 a pot, you can see how suddenly they can make a lot of money. And that's what they do. You know, they're there to make money. They're not there for the fun. What else have we got that we can show in here? Right. This is Muhlenbergia Damosa. It's standing nearly 6 foot in the pot, and it's a cracker. It won't survive the winters outside. And this is one of the main reasons that I've actually built this greenhouse. It's just because I want this. I love it. It's called the Muli bamboo. It's a grass and a bamboo sort of mixture. That's the best way to describe it. It's a sort of a cross between the two. I think it's Mexico. I'm not sure. I think it's a Mexican one. So it won't take our winters. But it certainly looks good when it gets going. Now, I'm at a point at the moment where I think I'm going to have to split some out of it because I really need to keep it controlled in size, which isn't a problem for me, but I want to be able to bring it into the greenhouse every year, and there'll come a point in the next year, maybe 2 years, when I won't be able to do that. I won't be able to get it through the door because the pot will be too big. So that's Muhlenbergia. And then we've got a Restio, which I'm just rescuing at the moment. It's coming back. You see the green. It was a little bit dodgy. It doesn't like the cold either, but I made the mistake last year of leaving it out, and it didn't like it. Here's the bamboo that I put into the moss, and I've done a YouTube on this before about how moss can help improve the root zone. Now, it was an experiment, and it still is an experiment. And it appears that it's actually doing all right. Now, I know this bamboo was going to be okay anyway because it's got a nice little chubby root system. But I wanted it to develop more roots, so I've popped it in there. I've done it with some little trees that I'm hoping to do as bonsai. And we've got another couple of days, and I'm going to be lifting them to see if this experiment has worked. It's not so much as an experiment because I was told it would actually do this. What else have we got in here that we can show you? Right, we've got an ivy nest. Not everybody's cup of tea, ivies, but I particularly like this one, and I've had it in every house I've been, to be honest, and it's called Buttercup. Now, it looks terrible at the minute, but Buttercup's dead easy to rip apart and take out new little plants and grow them on, and that's what I do. Always do it. Right, there's this here. Nothing's really happening with this yet. This is Lysomachia clethroides. So it's what's commonly known as the gooseneck Lysomachia. Simply because it looks like a goose's neck and it's white. It's very invasive. I would never ever let this go in the garden. This one, oh, there we go. It's starting to. Let me just get my little stick out. Where is the camera? Here we go. Look, exciting, isn't it? Look at this. There you go. New growth coming through. Now, I'm encouraging it to come on quicker because I want to get it out of this plastic pot, and I've got some lovely tins that I'm going to put it into. So I will put it in the tin. It could even be a dustbin, half a dustbin cut in half, and it'll be put into that, and it should look really good. But I will not put it into the ground because it will escape and it will be a bloody nightmare. Right, this is Echinacea and this is the Bressingham hybrid one. I bought one plant and I've subsequently collected the seed and actually, how many's here? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 here and about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more in the little trays outside through there. Dead easy to grow. Don't fear planting seeds and expect them to not take. They will take 9 times out of 10, and you should have a good amount take. Now, these are the older ones, the ones I've just shown you outside, a little bit behind, simply because I've kept them in those cells. These ones were transplanted at the end of last year, and they're coming on a tree. Now, they're coming on a tree because I've been keeping them inside the greenhouse. Now, one thing you need to watch out for when you do this, you need to watch for slugs. You need to lift your pot and you need to check underneath. Is there any? Now, I know there's none in here. What am I on about? I've actually lifted this and I've got rid of them. Because they will eat this Echinacea and it will just not ever come up. It'll just not appear. Now, the Bressingham hybrids is a real nice little collection and it kind of seeds true. It'll do its thing time and time again. I'm pulling out little seedlings, grass seedlings. Look at that. I don't want them. If you don't know what they are, don't keep them. Don't keep grass seedlings because I've got so many different types of grass. I wouldn't know what they were until maybe 5 or 6 weeks in. And then I'd be able to identify them. But I've got so many grasses, I don't need to really worry about keeping them. In fact, quite a few in here. Yeah, get out. Right. So that's Echinacea. So that just brings them on quicker, and it's just worth doing. I've got some strawberries. Look at these. I originally had them here, and I got rid of them. I don't really grow things that you can eat, but anyway, I got them back off my neighbour. These were originally in here, and they're looking so healthy. And he's given me another type. What's he call it? Finesse. Another strawberry in there called Finesse. That one there at the back, not as big as this. But apparently it just keeps seeding. Keeps flowering and flowering and flowering. Never really stops. So, what else have we got? We can show Symphotricum, Calliope. Symphotricums used to be known as asters. There are still types of aster out there, but Symphotricum, this is a Symphotricum and not an aster. And it gets really big. I had a lovely show on one last year, which was looking cracking. And I just had this as I think I found it I split it and it ended up being forgotten about, and I realised it was there, and I lifted it again and popped it in here. So we've done that. I've also got Rubra Damosa. Now, I don't know if you're aware of Rubra Damosa. You'll know Goldstrum, which is Damosa Goldstrum. And you may not be aware, but Rubra Goldstrum is a sort of moisture lover. And a lot of people assume it's going to be a sun lover, which it is, because it grows quite late in the season. But it lives alongside rivers and all that kind of thing, and we're kind of floodplains. So it does really well in wet meadows. So if you've got a wet meadow, get yourself some of that. You don't know, it could do really well for you. But it's not a very known fact that. People tend to put it in a sunny border because it's pretty yellow colour. But it will survive in water. or next to a watercourse. We've also got another weird one here called Dianthus Cruentus. It's a lovely little dianthus. It's a pink, I suppose you could commonly call it, but this one's got tiny, tiny little flowers. It's wonderful. Now, I've also taken cuttings. Now, really, I shouldn't have this in here. I should have this at the back of the shed, but because it's this time of year, I'm quite happy with it to stay in here for now. And hopefully these are Sambucus, and it's called Black Tower that I've taken it off, and hopefully these 4 should strike. Hopefully, we don't know. We'll see. Now, what I also do is sometimes I find little seedlings in the garden, and I'm never 100% sure. This one is called Linum Perrin, as you can see, and it never stops flowering. I'm not convinced this is actually a Linum Perrin, although it almost looks identical to the mother plant. But I can't be sure yet, and it's another reason for putting it in here. And I tend to just put what I think it is, because I found it next to the plants that I think it is. And I've put 3 question marks on that, as you can see. 3 question marks. Not sure. Not 100% convinced that is Linum Perrin, but we'll just see. Another mistake I made, putting these in and then forgetting to put the label in. And I keep telling people, bloody label your plants, because trust me, when they come up, you'll forget completely what you put in there. If you've got like 50 plant pots of the same, just put a couple of plant labels into the odd one so that you know where it is. But anyway, I do know what this is now. It's Euphorbia, and it's Grithii, and it's Dixter. I took little cuttings, look, as you can see, these little stalky bits, and not all of them will take. This one is taking quite well. There's another little one here taking. 1, 2, 3. So there's 4 in there, quite good. Then there's 1 there, 2, and then there's stalks here that I tend not to just try and pull them out at this point, because, in fact, let's do a little experiment. Right, there's 1 here, there, no stalk with it. So I've obviously pulled that out, and it's carried on growing. Now there's another one here. Let's pull it out. They don't all strike, but you must be very mindful that it may be striking further down. Now, in this case, the chances are I planted that too deep. It's not working. So it's not grown. There's a little bit on this side there, but that's a different plant altogether. So that's not grown. So we might as well pull that out. Let's try. Now, this is why you've got to be careful. Don't always assume they're not growing. Just because these are away and that's away to that degree, and they was all pruned at the same time, don't think they won't grow. And here's a reason to show you. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that little bugger there. Damn, come out. There. Can I see it? Yeah, there you go. So it's there. Tiny, tiny little growth off of this little sticky thing. So be careful when you remove them. Don't remove them too soon. Patience is required. Definitely for us gardeners. You've got to be more patient. Don't be in a rush to pull things up and get them growing. Right, what else can we show you? Right, a couple more things before I go. It's just a little greenhouse visit, this. Exciting, this. Not for you people, but for me, it's dead exciting. We'll put that there so you can see what it's called. For those who want to look this one up, that's how you spell it. Miscanthus lutaria riparius. I've got the plant. It's a grass, Miscanthus, obviously. But if you ever get hold of this, do not plant it in your garden, especially if you've got water nearby. It will ramp away, and you will definitely regret it. Now, I took these cuttings, or I took these little roots off the main one that I've put in the garden, which, as I've done on a previous YouTube, you've seen how I do these sheep feeder rings, and it's in the middle of the sheep feeder ring, and it's looking fantastic in there. But these are the little roots that I took from it. Now, these were literally, if you looked at them, they look no better than that little stick there. That's what they look like. A bit thicker than that, obviously. And I'll prove that in a minute, because I'm going to show you one. But this is what's happening now. Now, because it loves water, I think Lutaria riparius means waterside or something like that, by the water. I don't know. Could be wrong. Could be talking waffle there. But anyway, again, don't be too presumptuous that they're not growing. Look, this one's a bit behind. They were all different sized roots. Let's have a look in here. See if we can expose it while we're doing this YouTube. There. Is that one? Could be it. Not convinced that's it. but it will be growing somewhere. There'll be another piece in there that I ain't seen yet. May not grow. I mean, it may fail. I think I've had a pretty good success rate so far. We've got the bigger one now. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. There we go. Look at that. Can you see the size of that? That's the root. It's massive. That's nothing. That could be 4 times wider than that. Nothing at the moment. Now, I'm looking for its leaf because it will be throwing up a leaf somewhere. And this is the one where I put this one. I put these into bigger pots because they're obviously bigger root zones. But literally just plant them in to a plant pot. You can do this with a lot of miscanthus. Don't worry too much, especially the deciduous types what die right back. And then just wait. Bit impatient here, aren't I? As I said, don't be impatient. Look at me. Not seen it yet, but that root's looking good, so I'm not too worried about this. That's a lot bigger than the rest of them. So they are doing really well. Look at that. Beautiful when you see things like that. I get dead excited. We all do, don't we? Right, I'm going to show you something else now. Cuttings. I promised to do a one on the Erysimum Bowls Mauve at some point to show you what's happened to it and how to take cuttings from it. A little tip before I show you the next thing. Try to keep water in your greenhouse. It gets the temperature up to the same temperature as what's in the greenhouse itself. So when you're watering things, you're not shocking them. So you've got to be careful as well because it can get hot as well. So just try and keep it in here, in watering cans, and it'll do really well. A little confession here while we're at it. See this watering can here? I was on Gardener of the Year in 2004 with Monty Don. And that came home with me. That and a wheelbarrow that's not here. But don't bring the BBC up and tell them. But that one managed to find its way home with me. Because I knew they were just going to be given away. So that was on the show. Right. Oh dear, maybe I shouldn't have confessed that. But anyway. Right, let's show you this. Cuttings, Hylotelophiums they're now called. Sedums, originally, they were called. I've got one here called Carfunkelstein. Now, although it doesn't look great at the moment, they will be striking. That will get to a pretty dark purple, in fact, almost black when it gets going. Later on, I will, when they get going in the garden properly, I'll show you exactly what they're going to look like, and they're stunning. The next one is Mr. Goodbud, and I got a new plant of it last year, and I was quite impressed with it. I've had it before in the past, but I completely forgot how good it is. And I've struck some cuttings. Well, I hope they're striking. They're looking pretty good at the moment, looking healthy. They've been in there over a week, and they're looking great. I've also got another one here that was brought with me from a previous house, and it's massive. I can't really demonstrate that yet, but I will in the future. And this one is, I call it Igor the Giant at the moment. Now, it's come through Matrona and probably several others, but the reason I selected it was because it was huge. It had 2 leaves. Just before I was about to move from the last house, it was huge. And I didn't want to leave it. I thought, no, I'm taking that with me. And I pulled it out at the last second, and it's turning out to be a lovely plant, and it has kind of a Matrona pink stem, because they do, but this one is particularly large and really pink when it gets going. So I'm holding hopes, but this year I've decided to take 4 cuttings from it because I want the other one to develop properly because it's only, 2.5 years old, and I need it to get to 3 to make sure that it remains stable. So that's my little greenhouse tour for today. As you can see, it's a bit of a mess. It's not big enough. I could do with it 50 times bigger than this, but it is what it is. It's what I could do. I got the greenhouse free, as you're probably aware, and it's better than nothing. It's better than sticking these plants outside, which some are. You can see, look, grasses, loads of grasses outside, even more over there. But it's well worth having a greenhouse. If you can only have a cloche over some of your plants at this time of year, it's well worth doing. So that's what you should be doing. Let's end where we started Elymus magellanicus seedlings, looking fantastic. Hope you've enjoyed this little tour of the greenhouse, the hybrid greenhouse. And don't forget, I do podcasts up at Grassy Bottom. They're available on most platforms if you look for those. And I will be doing one very shortly on my favourite grasses. Thanks for watching. Ta-da!